Okay, well, welcome. Thank you all for attending my research resource presentation on strategic library assignments. I am really excited about this. This kind of thing has been on my mind the whole time I've been here at FAU, and I've been here for about 12 years. I know there's an analogy that I meant to ask one of my colleagues about it, the elephant, where we all have a different part of it. And there's a bigger picture that if we kind of work together and kind of see each other's perspectives, it makes it easier to see the whole big picture. And this is definitely one of those cases because there's a regular experience that we have in the library with students in terms of how they interact with us with their assignments. They come to us a lot for guidance on interpreting their assignments, and if there's any confusion or trouble that they're having or challenges, we see that, and we're always very hesitant to say anything to faculty because you are the experts in the content areas. And we, obviously we support you, you support us. We don't want to step on any toes. But you have things that you see and we have things that we see. And so I'm really excited to talk about this today. I'll just give you a thumbs up or something.
Yeah, or tap on the board.
Oh, that's right. Hey, I need more coffee today. Okay, so my objectives for today are, to discuss the challenges and the opportunities for incorporating library research into your assignments, how to do it in ways that work for everybody most effectively to make everybody successful. Identify 3 ways or more to strategically incorporate library research into your assignments. So, oops. Okay, so just for a moment, let's pause. I want to know, how would you like to see your students engaging with the research process? Just throw things out to me. What do you want to see? What's your pie in the sky if everything was working wonderfully and your students were at their optimal level? What would they be doing?
I want them to be comfortable being able to, I say go in, access the library in whatever way works best for them, and know exactly what to do to get the articles I want them to find or the body of information on the topic, to know how to go and get what they want. Easier said than done, because when I do a search, I start out with what do we come up with? 457,000.
Yes.
So
yes, SearchWise is like the Google of the library, and it will return a ton of results, and it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So yes, we want our students to be able to be adept at finding the information they need, defining their research topics, all of those things, and accessing things easily, and all of that kind of thing, right? Anything else you want to throw out?
One frustration is if they'll find the perfect article and they have to pay $14 for it. I guess there's no way around that, is there?
Well, there is.
Good, that's what I want.
One thing is more of this, because if that is happening, there's a big discommunication or lack of communication. Yeah, if I am at home and I'm a student and I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not going through the library and logging into Off-Campus Connect, sure, lots of publishers would love to take my money for things that we either already have access to, more likely than not, or at the very least, we can get it through interlibrary loan. We have a service. Now, it isn't if, a not if but when kind of thing. So yeah, if the paper's due the next, day, then okay, you may have to make that decision to buy the article if you know. But we do have a service where they can get it, and we've got access to so much. If they can't get that article, there's got to be at least something else they can access. So they should never be paying $14, or in one case where I saw $90 an article, they should not be doing that. Textbooks are enough, tuition is high enough. So with that being said, these are 4 goals that are on our research guide on library assignments that kind of merge QEP goals, as well as the Association for College and Research Libraries goals. And so, based on that, we kind of have an idea of what we all want, which is that they understand the body of knowledge, the scope and variety of what's available through the library, how to differentiate their uses, the steps and the tools of research, of the research process, how to be flexible in using multiple technologies in the research process. They may be tech savvy, but that does not equate to being research savvy, right? And we know this. Students will benefit in their knowledge from understanding the library, the research process, and from all of us collaborating with each other so that we can, help everybody succeed. Okay, so for years in the library field, we've had what we call information literacy standards. And it's kind of like a step-by-step thing, define your information need, know how to find the information, evaluate it, use it ethically, things like that. They recently overhauled the whole thing, and the other pieces are still in play, but this is supposed to be deeper. It's supposed to account for affective learning and just more of the research process than just concrete steps. And so I think these are things that we can all relate to. Authority is constructed and contextual. I certainly learned that as a mom. I know my child very well, and that has value, right? In collaboration with her pediatrician or the authorities that do research or what have you. Information creation is a process, right? And we know this. We all want, whether it's a freshman, a graduate student, or a faculty member, we've all been there. We have a topic, we think we're just gonna pick a topic, find some information, write a paper, 1, 2, 3, right? We always hope that. When we do presentations, we hope that. And then we get caught up in, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to cover so much. There's more that I could cover than I realized. I want to change my topic as I'm going along. Nobody thinks about these things until it's happening, right? Information has value. That's why if you try to access these things from outside the library, the $90 or the $14 a pop, everything's on Google. No, it's not. People are making a lot of money off the fact that it's not the case. Research is inquiry. We're all about inquiry here. Scholarship is a conversation. If we can just help our students get that alone, that would be a really helpful thing for them to understand. If we can make sure that they start to get that on a real level at the beginning of their careers in college, you can really get a foothold so that they make real progress. And of course, searching is strategic exploration. Now the reality is, students are overwhelmed. It's a different world today than what we had, where we went into the library and you had time to luxuriate in the information, read things, take notes. You wrote your whole paper by hand before you ever typed it up.
No cards.
By the time I was in grad school, I was typing it up the night before because I had Microsoft Office. I could. We were starting to have online databases. There are conveniences that we have, but there's drawbacks as well. Library anxiety. I read something that said, yes, students come into the library, they're tech savvy, they come in all the time, they use, the building itself. But when they're actually, when they're actually required to use the library anxiety sets in because they realize they don't actually know everything that they think that they know about how things work, which is just normal. That's just normal. They have unrealistic and incomplete expectations about the research process. And we do too about, how much they know. and they don't understand the importance of formal academic discourse. This is a slide from my plagiarism workshop. You have over here an in-text citation, an APA style, for a research article, and then you have Twitter. So things are different in terms of the reality of what it's like outside of the college experience today, and it's also different from what life was like outside of college before. So we have a certain idea of what it means to plagiarize, how to avoid that, how people should be interacting with knowledge. And our realities as students was different from what it is today. And so when we see students and we think that they just want us to coddle them, it's not completely in line with the reality of what they're facing. And we gotta find a middle ground. I love this. I love this graphic. Look at the contradictions in what we expect students to do. Build on what's already been said, but be original. Rely on the experts, but disagree with them. Be obedient and disagree with them, right? Give credit to previous researchers, but make your own contribution. It goes on. Right? So they don't know what they're doing. They don't know whether to rely on the experts and throw their opinion out the window, or to totally rely on their opinion and use the resources as a complete afterthought.
None of it can be done at the last minute.
Right. Right.
That kind of thinking really takes a lot of time.
It does. It does. And it's just too easy to overlook that and to forget that. We've all been there. If logic were enough for all of us to do all the things we know would be helpful for us, we would all be very healthy, we would eat right, we would exercise, so we have to bridge that gap. And there are ways to do that. So I have a Padlet here. Oops.
I'll get you there.
Okay, so summarize, think about an assignment that you've given that requires library research, either explicitly or implicitly. And if you have access to the Padlet, go ahead and just double click anywhere on there and throw it up there. You assigned or experienced. Those of you who are just kind of walls or flies on the wall, feel free to add something.
I see Christy posted hers, the ALA.org, the framework.
Oh, okay.
She actually was sharing that in the chat, but I'm glad she put it on the tablet.
Oh, yeah. I have it on the slide, but.
Okay.
Thanks, Christy. Okay, so we have the framework. We have my undergrads need to find information on basic educational concepts. Wonderful. Background information is key to the beginning of the process. Getting to the full text. Students may be stumped on how to get to the full text of the article, even when they are using that via library's databases. Absolutely. We have a service called Ask a Librarian that allows students to not only come up and see us at the reference desk, but they can chat with us, text us, email us, obviously call us. So if they're having any trouble accessing an article, being told they have to pay, that's the perfect time to hit us up and say, hey, let me use Ask a Librarian and find out what exactly is the scoop. I actually had this woman, totally not even a student, call me yesterday, and she had a specific article she wanted, and I said, well, come on in. We were having trouble accessing it because it wasn't coming up through electronic journals. And then, we saw actually it was coming up through SearchWise. And so I was able to help her troubleshoot and figure out how to access it. She came on in and she was able to get it. So it's very simple, reach out for help. I know, easier said than done. Again, we've all been there. Oh, I have a question. I must be the only person. I'm horrible for having this question. No, you're not.
Can I ask you a question? How long does it take to get back to the students? How could I, what can I tell the students? You expect an answer?
Within 24 hours, generally, yeah. You know,
Maybe
and-
sooner.
yeah. I mean, and it depends on, you know, like during the week for chat, it's FAU librarians during the day from 1 to 5. You know, and then other times we collaborate statewide with other academic librarians. But, you know, using the right thing for the questions is helpful, but you may not know what the right thing is. We'll always tell you if, you know, we think it'd be better if you just call us, or if we think, you know, it'd be better to email us. The important thing is to just not hesitate to reach out. Okay, so we've got some good things here. My students need to find chemicals that cause cancer in microwave popcorn. Excellent. That goes into all kinds of disciplines.
Love it.
Great.
My wife's been getting me on that all the time. She goes, "You can't be doing sparkling coffee."
I know, right? The things that we didn't think of, you know, years ago, and now we're realizing. If a professor says you can't use internet sources or only online sources, yes, my colleague Lori is chiming in with something that we see a lot. There's a professor at PBSC, love him to death. And bless his heart, right? He, you know, he's very well-meaning. He has a library-based assignment. He schedules with his students for them to come to our library and find print journals. He has them go into MLA bibliography database and find articles critiquing a book, and then find the print version of the journal and go upstairs and find it. And there is value to that experience for sure. But that type of assignment, the way he does it, is not something that you see these days as much. The reality of how you find things means that it's going to be more difficult for them if he doesn't have a session with us and have us offer some kind of help. So you're well-meaning, but you don't want them to be frustrated along the way. So I love all of the engagement. I'm going to say, let's go back to the slide before time gets way out of my hands. Okay, so do you see yourself with your assignments? Do you see yourself making assumptions about what students do or do not already understand about the research process? I think that's common. We think, oh, well, they pick it up somewhere, right? They get it in their freshman year in SLS, or they get it in their English classes. They ought to know. I knew, you know, they're going to know how to cite things properly, how to avoid plagiarism. Somebody's going to teach them these sources. Well, maybe, maybe not. Students are falling through the cracks. Sometimes the assignment requirements might be confusing, unclear, or lacking in purpose. You guys are so busy. You've got so much to do. If you even include anything research-based or library-based, we're extremely grateful. But that, you know, that doesn't mean you're not still really busy. And, you know, looking at things from your own perspective. Scavenger hunts. In ideal land, scavenger hunts are a wonderful idea. They seem like they would be a fun, engaging way, you know, to get the students into the library using resources. The reality is that they are super frustrating and pointless. So if you want to do a scavenger hunt, collaborate with us so we can figure out a way to make sure it's meaningful, tied to your student learning objectives, you know, so that it won't be just an exercise in futility. assigning arbitrary restrictions, like that example, that professor who has them finding print journals when we don't carry print journals anymore. So they're gonna have to get older things. Unclear instructions. You know, we have sometimes they say, you know, no online sources, like my colleague was mentioning on the Padlet. Well, what does that mean? Does that just mean no Google? Or does that mean no online scholarly journals? Are you sure? Because the students are not going to know that that's what you mean. So we want to be clear without being too restrictive. Creating assignments that are mismatched in some way to the reality of what the library resources are and how you find them and use them. The student experiences mismatch with what is real for them today, or to your own learning objectives. So these are some of the things that we want to avoid. These are for best results, what we want to move towards. Focus on teaching research techniques. Check to see whether the library actually has the resource you have, and try not to have everybody finding the same book. We don't see that too much anymore, but we used to a lot. Consult with the librarian before designing the assignment. We'll give you a heads up. Oh yeah, I would definitely do it this way rather than that way. Save you some time. Complete the assignment yourself if you can before you assign it to your students. You know, you guys access your stuff in a different way than the students do. You've got your colleagues and the journals that you subscribe to within your field and that you always use, and you may not even use the library that much yourself, or at least not in the same way as the students. So is it actually going to work? Collaborate with a librarian and bring your students in for an instruction session. You know, let's work together, let's have a meaningful assignment and make sure that they're successful. Explain the assignment clearly, preferably in writing. I can't tell you how many times I've had students come in and, well, my professor said such and such, blah, blah, blah. Well, do you have guidelines that you can show me so I can see the fine print that will give me telltale signs? Well, no, they just told me the assignment instructions. You know. So in writing is good. And if you can't do any of this, hey, we understand. Send us the assignment. Say, hey, I'm giving this assignment. My students may come to see you. Awesome. Now we have a heads up. We know what they may be encountering. And of course, you know, encourage your students to ask for help. Okay, so some sample assignments. When my colleague Lori and I did just an overview of the librarian here a few weeks ago, I mentioned something that I, you know, dubbed the icebreaker assignment. This is just the basic, you know, if you do nothing else, do this. Icebreaker number 2 is an expanded version of that an SLS professor that used to work here at FAU did. Annotated bibliography. If I could go back, I would tell myself, do your bibliography first, and I do tell students that. They think that they're working backwards, so they think they're not allowed to do that. So if the professor makes them do it, they'll know that they're allowed to, and sets them up for so much more success. Having them do a research log, that could be more meaningful than having them do a whole research paper. Creating a search strategy, we have a worksheet for this. Applying the CRAP test for evaluating websites. You know, if you don't want to assign, you know, resources through the library because you're just like, they're not going to use it anyway. You know, that may or may not be true, but you can at least get them evaluating things. Primary source analysis. My colleague Vicki Thur in our archives and special collections has something that, you know, she does with students that come in for tours.
Rachel,
Yes.
before you go on, can you clarify the research log a little bit, please?
I'm actually, I've got slides for
Okay.
most of those. Yeah,
Good, thank you.
that was just the preview.
Gotcha.
How am I on time?
We've got a half an hour.
Oh,
You're good.
wonderful.
Half an hour.
Yeah,
You're fine.
Okay.
you're good.
You know, give me some signals or something, if I get over. Okay, so the icebreaker assignment, bare minimum, because a lot of professors are either afraid that they're just gonna use Google anyway, why even assign anything? Or I'm going to tell them, use just these resources, just these journals. Well, you could do that, but that doesn't teach them how to engage with the library when they do have a full project. It doesn't teach them those critical thinking skills. Then on the other side is when they do get a whole big research paper and they haven't had those scaffolded experiences, and so they don't, now they're just way in the deep end. They're right in the deep end and they don't know what they're doing. So beginning of the semester, you say, hey guys, select a research topic and maybe even give them some suggested topics and then be a little flexible so that they can find something they're really interested in on the subject matter of your course. But give them some chance to choose maybe one book, one scholarly journal article, cite it, annotate it, or introduce a quote and an in-text citation properly. Do this in the beginning of the semester for one of your courses. And I hope that it's not hard to grade. I would like to think that it's not hard to grade, or at least, you know, it's easier than a big old research paper. It scaffolds the process. It gets them to dip their toes in things. It gets them started, and it gives you an idea as to what you're dealing with. You know, what do my students know about library research, the research process, citing sources, all of these things that they need to know. You can very quickly kind of get an idea and then start to troubleshoot from there, or send them to us, or what have you. So if you take nothing else away from this whole session, I would take this away. I would say, how can you adapt this assignment to your classes and reach out to us to work together to figure that out? Because we don't want you to have to, you know, add to your workload, grading lots of extra things, but we do want it to be, you know, successful for everybody. So beginning of the semester is when I recommend it. You know, it eases them into the process, you assess their competencies, and you can reduce plagiarism, which is, you know, big. You know, so they're giving you the reference, they're annotating it or giving you some kind of information based on your guidelines. Okay, so the second version of that, we had an SLS instructor come up with this one. And so SLS students can do this. You know, find a book and a scholarly journal based on one of the following topics, either careers or relationships or diversity, which tie into their textbook. They explain why they chose that topic. They summarize the resource and you know, talk about the topic as it relates to it. They cite it, and then they answer some more questions. Easy peasy. Annotated bibliography. Maybe you give a term paper typically in one of your classes. Well, would you consider an annotated bibliography first or instead of it? Because that is a tried and true successful research assignment. Research log. Okay, so this is just one example of what that might look like. Get them to tell you what database they used, you know, find out, did they go into SearchWise, did they go into PsycInfo, did they go into SciFinder, or did they go into Google or Google Scholar? Because right off the bat, oh wow, that's what they're using. I know now that I need to make sure they know about certain things. What search terms did they use? What were the number of their results? Did they get 10 million results from their search, or did they get 2? How will you revise your search based on those results? And then, you know, okay, so now what? Was it relevant? Did you select any sources? What did you like about the things that came up? So this is a really good, meaningful activity. This is our creating a search strategy worksheet. I have a colleague who was teaching a construction session, Lori, last night for a novices class. And at the end, the professor just spontaneously said, okay, guys, this is your assignment. Fill this out and turn this into me tomorrow. So we have worksheets and things that are plug and play where, if you're willing to grade it, we're willing to supply it or create it with you. And this is huge. Developing your topic happened naturally when we were students. Now you type a few keywords into something like SearchWise and you get 10 million results. You need a way to think about your topic, narrow it down, figure out where you're going with it, figure out what the options are. And this is the number one thing that students skip. And then they run into trouble. It's like going on a road trip and not checking anything about your trip, not checking traffic, and all of a sudden there's, construction or a traffic jam or what have you. Okay, so in summary, you want to design your assignments strategically, very intentionally. And if you're unsure what that would look like, please, we're happy to help you. Review your current assignments. Where is there room for improvement? And then, schedule an appointment, meet with us, send us your assignments. Let us know what you've already assigned. Anything that you can do to reach out to us is good. And if you want some tips, in addition to viewing this at some point, we'll post, I'm sure this will be posted. We have our resource guide at libguides.edu/lib_assignments. Thank you so much.
Well, I was just gonna say, Rachel has been wonderful about working with my classes. I did not realize that's what it was, but icebreaker number 1 with an undergrad class that I do, which is I'm sort of entry level into the College of Ed, and I wanted to make sure they have some idea what's available to them and what the APA term means. And that was the assignment that we did. And then I do the annotated bibliography assignment in my graduate level classes. So and they're wonderful about bringing it all together for them. Rachel even came in and spoke in my undergrad class and went through the whole process with them. Yeah, she's great.
They have time for a few questions?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
The Google Scholar. I often go to Google Scholar first, so what's wrong? I know it's probably not the best.
You know what? One of our frames from ACRL is, authority is contextual. Google Scholar could be fine. Even, when you're developing your topic, Wikipedia could be fine for that part of the process, depending on, what you're doing. We show freshmen a web page. If you do a Google search for Martin Luther King, there's this website that comes up, martinlutherking.org. So you pull that up and you show it to them and say, well, who authored this web page? Well, who authored it? A hate group. So I tell them, I'm not big on saying never use Google. I'm bigger on, if you were researching hate groups, this would be a great thing to have in your bibliography. If you're researching Martin Luther King, this would be a terrible thing to have in your bibliography. So evaluating your sources, thinking critically is at the bottom of it. And knowing with that, information has value. If you're in Google Scholar, get in touch with us. I'll get your information and, look it up. But there's a way to make sure that you're getting things that we have, or, because that's the clincher. That's how you're going to run into the $14 or $40 or $90 article, because they're going to say, yeah, here's an article, pay for it. No, I already am affiliated with FAU and we get things for you. So
I got a question, and I don't mean to be so off topic, but Wikipedia, it's not, from what I understand, and from what Wikipedia actually has a link to, it's not a credible source of information. Is that correct?
No,
Okay.
of course not. But evaluating a Wikipedia entry and comparing it to a scholarly research article could be a valuable activity. When I'm preparing for instruction sessions, I didn't major in English. I didn't major in everything and its brother. So sometimes I cheat and I take a look at the Wikipedia entry for it for the keywords, and I'll tell them, for it for the keywords. Never use it as a resource, but use it intelligently. So get the keywords and then use those keywords in library databases.
Thank you.
Rachel, Lori has put the link to the LibGuide for Google Scholar, which what she's put in here directs you how to tell Google Scholar that you are associated with the FAU library so that you can automatically link to the article in the FAU library.
There we go.
There seems to be, it's just like a first step, but I do find, because I put in real specific stuff and it's, related to therapy and that sort of thing. So they're not going to have web pages and things like that usually. They can't,
Right.
but
They'll have research articles.
it's good to follow.
But they'll try to make you pay for it. So
Not always, but yes. But you know what? There's another thing. You might pay for it, but then you can find it somewhere else.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you've been doing this for a while. You know what you're doing. So yeah, it's definitely not, never use it. I mean, if you had a class and you wanted them to use Google Scholar or compare the results for a search in Google Scholar next to a database like SearchWise, we could totally do that. We could create an activity around that. We want to make it so that students are successful, and if they're if you're getting better results through that.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's just it's like a first thing,
Yeah.
and then you can find other things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Rachel said exactly the thing that always frustrated me. I worked in a high school library teaching databases and searching online databases. Is what to search for and restricting using Boolean searches and all the different students don't know that, like when they leave high school. So if they don't know that, how are they going to do it here? They could limit that 455,000 to maybe 100 if they knew what they were searching for and had refined their topic enough. So that's the biggest obstacle that students were facing. They just got stuck there because they just couldn't move forward because they just didn't know there was too much information to work on. And it's just information overload. I can't do it. I'm stupid, I can't do it. So and so if you have freshmen coming in doing the same thing, it's like you're setting them up to fail. So if they don't know, the correct search strategies, that's the key with the online databases. And sometimes you can't find it in an online database. I have to show a student an encyclopedia and the look on the student's face was like, oh my God, this is amazing, I took the Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, and it's like, oh, this is so cool. And I just couldn't believe it that the student had never seen an encyclopedia and was so fascinated like we would be with an online database kind of thing. So it was just the reverse.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, their experiences are different today.
Right.
We have Wikipedia, so.
And that's why you were talking about the reality and the
Exactly. Like, with things like Twitter and just the reality. I mean, you create a presentation. Raise your hands. Be real here. How many of you make sure to put the source for your images and cite your images all the time? So the students, will say, well, why do I need to cite these sources? I don't understand why. Why do I need to, I think I had a student recently on the phone and she understood why she needed the reference. I think it was for a discussion board post for a class. And she understood why she needed to have the reference at the bottom, but she was like, I had a friend tell me that I could, put the in-text citation at the end of the paragraph. And, they have good questions. In your class, I had a student, Judy, who was like, well, why do I need to know the parts of a citation? We have citation management tools now. Every generation is going to have those things, and we can get our panties in a bunch about it, understandably, but that's not going to help anything. So we've got to figure out how to bridge that gap.
Things change over generations too. The rules don't stay necessarily the same one decade to another.
That's true.
It's true.
I mean, how is citing a PowerPoint slide different from citing within a paper? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
There are guidelines on how to do your reference, and there's guidelines on how to do all of those things, for sure.
Very interesting. I love how you made the assignments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those are great.
It was in my head for a long time because, we see what the students encounter, we see what they come up with, what they ask us, the challenges that they have. We see that they don't want to read, or maybe not that they don't want to, but they're overwhelmed. They think they have to read everything and they get stuck at that point. So get them to read one research article. They'll have read something, and then once they've done that, the rest of it won't, be as overwhelming. And they'll start to understand certain things that are hard for them to understand by just you talking to them about it.
What's been your experience with international students?
We've had some instruction sessions with our international students. I personally haven't interacted with them as much. I mostly focus on the PBSC folks. I think, with plagiarism, there's a cultural thing. Culturally, plagiarism is not as big of a deal in every country. And so my understanding is that they come over here and they're like, well, why is it such a big deal? What do you mean? It's flattery. So we have to account for cultural differences too. Plagiarism is important, but to what end?
So they learn how to write.
Yeah.
That's really what
It is.
themselves,
It is. And so we have to make that clear.
Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.